of recent events dating back to the fall of last year. You see right here, Greg Norman named the CEO of LIV Golf Investments in October. Then March 16th of this year, the schedule for an 8-event, $255 million invitational series is announced May 31st. Former world #1 Dustin Johnson, part of the initial field announced for the first event in London. June 6th, the World Golf Hall of Fame member Phil Mickelson added to the field, commits to LIV Golf. June 9th, the first event at Centurion Club beginning in England as of this morning. And this statement released from LIV Golf earlier today, the announcement by the PGA Tour is vindictive, and it deepens the divide between the tour and its members. It's troubling that the tour, an organization dedicated to creating opportunities for golfers to play the game, is the entity blocking golfers from playing. This certainly is not the last word on this topic. The era of free agency is beginning as we're proud to have a full field of players joining us in London and beyond. For more, we bring on Brandel Chamblee. Brandel, thank you for joining us on this Thursday. Your reaction to this quickly evolving story, including sanctions announced by the PGA Tour?
Well, I think the letter from the PGA Tour and listening to Rex Hoggard's comments and reports pretty much laid it out. It wasn't much of a surprise. I think this is fairly predictable comments from the PGA Tour. Of course, their interest lies in protecting the business model, both the business model of the PGA Tour and the players who have been participating and will continue to participate on the PGA Tour. But, I think this is a sad day in the history of the game of golf. Let's be really clear about what we're watching today. We're not watching a golf tournament. We're watching a sports watching operation. We're not watching the best players in the world. As I look over that list of 48 players, there may be, if you're, say, just a casual golf fan, by my count, there are 14 names that you might, 14 names that you would recognize. Sergio Garcia, Dustin Johnson, the Graham McDowell, Phil Mickelson, Kevin Na, Poulter, Schwartzel, Westwood, Keimer, those sorts of names. 14 names. Those 14 players, their average world rank is 100, a little over 100. So you're certainly not watching the best golfers in the world. Those 14 players' average age is 40. Now, the average age of the top 10 players in the world is 27. So you're certainly not watching a representation of the youth movement in the game of golf. Those 14 players have played in 178 events over the course of this season. Combined, they have 12 top 10s. Justin Thomas almost has as many all by himself over the course of this year. Scottie Scheffler almost has as many over the course of this year, almost as many top 10. So in no way are you watching a representation of what the game is today, or you should be under any pretense that you're watching the best golf or the best golfers in the world today. What you're watching is pure and simple. It is a sports washing operation. The PGA Tour, the foundation of the PGA Tour, is built upon philanthropy. It looks after the players. It has health benefits, pension, safety nets. It has tours for the beginning, the prime, and the end of players' careers. Now let's look at LIV Golf. What's its foundation? This foundation is based upon greed and sports washing. It buys these players, and it will treat these players, make no mistake about it, it will treat these players as a depreciating asset. They will be expendable. They will be tossed aside when they have no further use to LIV Golf. That's exactly what this is. They are just depreciating assets. So this is a sad day as we watch these players, I think, destroy their reputations, self-immolate, all that they've stood for in the game of golf. It was interesting just reading Greg Norman's comments and Phil Mickelson's comments. They both made comments along the lines of they thought that the best players in the world were not being fairly compensated for their greatness. If you Google the highest paid athletes of all time, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus are the top 4. Phil Mickelson is 11th. He is ahead of David Beckham. He's ahead of Kobe Bryant. Greg Norman is 15th. He's ahead of Kevin Durant. He's ahead of Lewis Hamilton. You're talking about being ahead of icons in sports that are far more popular worldwide than the game of golf and enjoy far more participation worldwide than the game of golf does. And yet, why is it that golf has 4 of the highest paid athletes of all time? Why is it that Phil Mickelson is 11th when, in terms of his stratosphere, he doesn't occupy as an athlete the space that athletes who've made less money than him, who play a sport that is widely more popular and has higher ratings than him? Why is that? Because of the image of the golfer, because of their independent contract nature, because the fact that they show up and, generally speaking, they play a game that is self-governed, self-policing. It is a game of integrity. It's because corporations want to align themselves with these players. It's because of the philanthropic aspect of the game of golf. So when I hear these players say that they are growing the game, it makes me want to puke. They're destroying the game, and they're destroying their reputations. This is one of the saddest days in the history of golf, watching these players come together for money and show to the world. None of them have separated themselves when they teed off today. All they're showing is that they're the greediest, most self-serving, self-interested, willfully blind players in the world of golf today.
Brandel, and to your point on strength of field, 5 of the top 10 players in the world are in Canada for the RBC Canadian Open. There are no top 10 players in the world in London. But I do want to bring your attention to this quote I found from the commissioner, Jay Monahan, of the PGA Tour in March, where he said that all this exterior stuff, we're in a position where no one can compete with what we have. But I ask you the question, how much of a threat is this LIV Golf entity with the money that they have?
Look, if people continue, I mean, there will always be people who will be willing to turn a blind eye to these atrocities. There will always be that. And clearly this is not about making money. This is not run in such a way. They paid $200 million is what I've read for a 51-year-old player who is well past his prime. $200 million. This would be like paying $200 million for a 25-year-old Seabiscuit and expecting the horse to run in the Kentucky Derby. Under what pretense is that a viable business operation? So this isn't based upon a free market. This isn't based upon business principles. So look, it seems like it can continue indefinitely because it's based upon an almost infinite fund of money generated from a petro country. So it seems like they're very interested in protecting and hiding their atrocities. So why wouldn't it continue indefinitely? The need to continue this indefinitely will go on. So its threat will continue. So it is a real existential threat, but it threatens to bring down the entire world of golf because, again, even the women's game, the LPGA, the LET, they're mostly based upon philanthropic principles as an independent contractor. And you start to think about, what does that mean? Okay, so all of a sudden these players are going to be now contractors. They're going to pay exorbitant fees. And to compete with that, competing tours would have to pay equivalent exorbitant fees, which would cut into the philanthropic contributions, which perhaps cut into the pension fund, which would have cut into corporate investment, which would have cut into the purses, essentially destroying the entire integrity and philanthropic foundation of all the tours worldwide. To what? To condescend to one of, if not the most reprehensible regime in the world. So it's a real threat, Damon, going forward.
Brandel, we appreciate a few minutes on this Thursday with this ever-developing story. We will speak to you soon.